Hey, did you hear about that CEO who got shot in America? It's all over the news.
Yeah, I caught it on the headlines this morning. Crazy world we live in, huh? Do you know any details about what happened?
From what I read, it happened outside his home. Apparently, he was getting into his car when someone just approached and shot him. It's such a shocking story.
Was it random? Or are they saying it might have been premeditated?
The police haven't confirmed anything yet, but there's speculation it could be targeted. Some reports are hinting it might be linked to his company's dealings. You know how high-stakes corporate stuff can get.
Yeah, the corporate world can be intense. But a shooting? That's next level. What kind of company was he running?
It's some big tech company. They've been in the news recently for controversial decisions, like layoffs and some disputes with their competitors. I guess they've also had issues with employees protesting.
So there's potential for a lot of enemies, both inside and outside the company. It makes you wonder who would take it to such extremes, though.
Exactly. The guy was known to be pretty cutthroat in business, but it still doesn't justify this kind of action. Even if someone hated him, there are better ways to deal with disagreements than violence.
No doubt. Was anyone else hurt? Or was it just him?
From what I read, it was just him. He was rushed to the hospital, but sadly, he didn't make it. His family must be devastated.
That's awful. It's not just a professional loss, but a personal one for his family and friends. Did he have kids?
Yeah, he had two. Young ones, too. I can't imagine what they're going through right now. Losing a parent is hard enough, but under these circumstances, it's heartbreaking.
Do they know anything about the shooter? Like, was the person caught or identified?
Not yet. The police released a statement saying they're investigating and following some leads. They mentioned security cameras in the neighborhood, so they're hoping that footage might help.
Makes sense. In areas like that, there's usually surveillance everywhere. I hope they find whoever did it. Acts like this shouldn't go unpunished.
Agreed. It's one of those moments that really shakes you, you know. You start thinking about safety, even for regular people. If something like this can happen to a CEO in a gated community, it makes you wonder how secure anyone else really is.
You're right. It's scary. But it also raises bigger questions about the state of things in society. What drives people to commit such acts? Is it frustration, greed, revenge, or something else entirely?
Probably a mix of all those things. Society feels so tense these days. Economic pressures, job insecurities, personal grudges, it all seems to boil over in these violent ways.
It's like everything's interconnected. The economy goes south, companies make tough decisions, and that trickles down to employees and communities. If someone's desperate or angry enough, they might take drastic measures.
Yeah, but that's the part that's hard to process. No matter how desperate someone is, crossing that line into violence is never the answer.
True. It makes me think about mental health, too. If someone felt pushed to do something like this, maybe they weren't in the right frame of mind to begin with.
Mental health definitely plays a role. But so does accountability. People need to take responsibility for their actions. The fact that this shooter planned and executed this attack shows a level of intention that's chilling.
Absolutely. And it's not just about catching the person who did it. It's about addressing the larger issues that lead to events like this.
That's the hard part, though. How do you even start solving something so complex? Stricter laws. More support systems. Better corporate ethics.
Probably a combination of all those things. But even then, it takes time. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's just frustrating because these tragedies keep happening, and it feels like nothing improves.
I know what you mean. It's like we're stuck in this cycle. But conversations like this are important, right? If more people talk about these issues, maybe it sparks change somewhere.
Hopefully. It's just tragic that it often takes something as terrible as this to get people talking.
Yeah, it's a harsh reality. Do you think this will lead to any major shifts in the corporate world or in how security is handled for high-profile figures?
It might. When something this shocking happens, companies and individuals often take a closer look at their own vulnerabilities. Security upgrades, policy changes, things like that.
It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But honestly, I feel for the employees at his company, too. This must be a nightmare for them.
No doubt. Losing a leader, especially in such a violent way, can shake a company to its core. It'll probably take a long time for them to recover.
And then there's the media. You know they're going to dissect every part of his life and career. Sometimes it feels like they lose sight of the human aspect in their quest for a story.
Yeah, that's true. There's a fine line between reporting the news and sensationalizing it. Hopefully, they handle this with some sensitivity.
Let's hope so. This story is already tragic enough. Adding unnecessary drama would only make it worse.
Agreed. I'll be keeping an eye on how this develops. It's one of those stories that stays with you, you know?
Same here. It's a reminder of how fragile life can be and how important it is to address the underlying issues in our society.
Well said. Let's hope justice is served and that this tragedy leads to some meaningful changes.